Hi, it's Mariam from Viva Ballet, and I'm back for 5 Question Friday. I am just getting back from the gym, so we're just going to get into it, okay? Question number 1. My siblings criticize how I'm caring for our parents, but they aren't willing to help. How should I handle this? They don't participate. They don't get a vote. They don't even get to comment. If they're not willing to help, then I wouldn't take much of what they say. Perhaps you can set a boundary for yourself that if they start talking about your caregiving, then you end the conversation. If that's uncomfortable for you, if you come from cultural backgrounds where maybe you're the youngest and these are your older siblings, then you've got to learn different ways to just not engage in that and not take to heart what they say. Caregiving is very, very challenging. Even at its best, you constantly are second guessing how you're doing it. What you're looking for is support. And I would express that to them and say, hey, this is already very hard. What I need from you is support, or I'm going to reach a limit where I'm not going to be able to do this. This being either caregiving or continuing a relationship with your siblings. I know it sounds really drastic and really tough, but you're doing the tough work. And if they're complaining now about caregiving, the likelihood is as things get harder, they're just going to complain and or blame a little bit more. So I would just, cut conversations when it gets to your parents and caregiving. I would also urge you maybe not to complain to them. Caregiving is very challenging. Maybe find supportive friends or a network that you can kind of let loose to, kind of express your frustrations to, maybe not your siblings, because they won't understand. They're not in that situation. Oh, okay. Question number 2. I feel like I'm always running from work to caregiving duties with no time to breathe. How can I reclaim some of my personal time? This is a very hard question. And I hear the cry that you definitely need some time for yourself and you have to prioritize it. I would schedule that first in your day and I would make sure that it's daily. I'm sure you already get up first thing in the morning before anybody in your own nuclear family needs you and before you have to go to work just to have some me time, but that isn't enough. You need transition time in the day. You need to have a nice hour and a half transitioning from work into caregiving that you get to really nourish and regroup. So I would schedule that time for yourself. Actually, imagine if you had made an appointment with a friend or an appointment with the doctor, you would actually adhere to that and go. I think you need to create that space in between work and caregiving, again, after caregiving, and maybe again before work. And you have to be extremely committed to hold on to that. No matter what happens, that's not the part of it that's movable. Maybe you have to get off early from work, or maybe you have to shortcut a little bit of caregiving, but the time for you is what's going to keep you healthy in your own age. So you got to stick to it. I hope it helps. All right, question number 3. My parents have started budgeting more carefully, but they want to treat the grandkids occasionally. How can I help them set limits while keeping it fun? I think if your parents are setting a budget, then they maybe know what their limits are. I would perhaps emphasize that the best things that you can give them are memories and time more than it is gifts. Maybe even ask your children or have them ask their children, what activities would you like to do with your grandparents, or what memories would you like to have with them? So the focus isn't on the spending as much as it is the time, and perhaps less expensive things to do. I don't know exactly how your parents treat them or what you're actually concerned about. But either limiting the time to just what they do together or keeping it in the home would be really helpful. And just being clear with your parents. Say, hey, I appreciate that you're giving time to my kids, and I would like you to keep all the funds and resources that you have to make sure that you guys can look after yourselves as long as possible. Maybe we can set a dollar limit to either activities or gifts for the kids so that you feel great about giving it to them. And we all feel very comfortable that you can continue to do that and look after yourself. I hope that helps. Question number 4. Kind of curious if this was a follow-up from my dad's bringing his girlfriend to Christmas, but here we go. Dad remarried after mom passed, and now his new wife is making medical decisions we don't agree with. How do we handle this? Again, very nuanced and very tough. I myself am a a wife of a man who has adult children, and I do make medical decisions. I generally consult or let them know the decisions that we're making, but I am not making the decisions for my husband. I am providing him with all the information for him to make the best decision. So the first thing that I would say is, are you sure she's making a decision that your father is not on board with? I think what's more important is the decisions that your father is making for himself. Are those the decisions that she's making, or are those the decisions in line with what you think is best for them? So again, I would always go back to the person receiving the care and figure out what is it that they're wanting for their own care. Now, if they've been married for a long time and he's suffering from sort of dementia and he's given her that power of attorney or, power over in medical decisions, I think that's a different consideration. And if he's trusted her with that, then she does get to make the decisions. I think the best thing to do is maybe just discuss why you have differences of opinions. Is it because of what's easier for you or you think is best based on information you have? Or is it what you actually believe that your father would have wanted? Again, I always like to go back to the person who's receiving the care and empower them as much as possible to make the decision for themselves. Now, in the instance, which is not really common, that you really feel that she's making decisions that are not in your father's best interest, that are actually harmful to him in her best interests, then you might want to call Adult Protective Services. Question number 5 of 5 Question Friday. Are there any services at airports that can assist my parents if they have limited mobility? Well, every airport that I've ever traveled with my husband definitely has wheelchair service. You book it at the time that you book your flight. You let them know that there's the passenger and the passenger's name and that they need airport assistance. So what will happen is you will bring them inside with your own mobility device or your own wheelchair, or you can have somebody go into the counter and grab the wheelchair. Sometimes it's just a wheelchair, sometimes it's with assistance, and then they will come out and they will push the passenger all the way through to the gate and on the flight. That's always available. If you want additional assistance from their home to the airport, there are services, Viva Valet is one of them, that can take them from home to airport and ensure that they get in touch with the mobility service officers at the airport. Again, the airport usually provides the services, but they're dispatched by each airline based on the booking and reservations. So you're going to want to look into that during the booking of your flight. You can both call your airline's local number or the airport's local number to find out what are the full facilities that are offered there. Okay, I hope that helps.